Hello, hi, this is Ranjani. Welcome to episode 2 of Reviews with Ranjani. First of all, thank you for all the overwhelming support. It is really encouraging to listen to all the feedback. So for today's episode, I actually wanted to do a review of this Matt Ridley book which I'm reading. But then there was this other concept from the same book which we reviewed last time, Playing Big, which I thought was very relevant and important to be shared. So we'll probably do that today. So it talks about communicating with power. There are like a lot of books on this topic, but this one talks about words which we use, or 10 commonly used speech habits which undermine our influence. A number of little things that we tend to do in our speech, they are not really little at all. They have a huge influence on how you are perceived, both at work and otherwise. So let's look through this list of 10 words, and you may empathize with this or recognize this in your communication as well. The first one, just. I just want to add this one thing. I'm just concerned that when we use just, we tend to come across as awkward and apologetic of what we are trying to say. Second one, actually. I actually think, I actually have a question. The third one, kind of and almost. I kind of think we should be doing this. Your point of view, or you come across to be uncomfortable asserting your opinion when you use almost or kind of. So linguists call these words as hedges, and they have done research to show that low power, low profile people tend to use this more than those leaders who are at positions of power. And I don't really think this is very gender neutral. I've seen men use it, I've seen women use it, I've used it in the past as well. I continue to use it sometimes, inadvertently. But the key here is to be cognizant of the fact that you're doing it and try avoiding them. Continuing with that list, the fourth one is sorry, but. We apologize a lot for things which do not require an apology at times. Sorry, but can I add this? Sorry, this may seem like a silly question, but. The fifth one, a little bit. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our product versus I'd like to tell you about my product. There's a huge difference. The sixth one, adding disclaimers. We do this because most of the time we're conditioned to come across to be humble. For example, I may not be an expert at this, but I'd like to add, I know you guys have been working on this for longer, but I'd like to add using disclaimers like this. Instead, you could use something like, here are my thoughts, right? Which comes across to be more assertive. The seventh one, asking a question such as, does this make sense? We use this at the end of, say, a presentation. This is an attempt to reach out but it comes across to be less influential. Alternatively, you may want to ask, what do you think? Do you have any questions? What are your thoughts about this? It makes the other person interested, or you're seeking out opinion from the other person instead. The eighth one is what the author calls up talk. This is when you're raising the pitch at the end of a statement or a question. Would you want to go out for dinner? Again, using sing-song voice. So uptalk or sing-song voice tends to make your point sound not very valuable. The ninth one, which I think is also very common, is when we rush and pile onto words, when your thoughts are do not match in with your speech. You're trying to keep up with your thoughts. So then we pile onto the words and ends up not effectively communicating the message. And the 10th one, when we substitute a fact or a statement with a question. So instead of saying, I think we should not increase the budget this quarter because of A, B, and C, if you were to go back and say, should we be increasing the budget this quarter? You're trying to come across to be likable, but in the process, undermining your own comment or opinion. So these are the 10 things which I wanted to list out. And while it's important to come across as warm, it's also important to come across as competent. And one way in which we could do this, and it reminded me of this feedback which someone at Toastmasters had mentioned once. When you are passing a feedback or a comment, he had asked me to use something called a sandwich technique. We could use something similar in a communication as well, where you start off with warmth, where you show appreciation for something which the person has done, communicate your point effectively, even if it is critical, and then end with appreciation. I use a thumb rule for this, not just for communication, also for decision making. I think of a leader who I aspire to become, or someone I look up to, and ask myself, what would XYZ do in this situation, or what would XYZ say in this situation? And that is a good way of pivoting yourself and communicating more effectively.